Hi everyone, thanks for watching us. My name is Elma Zamanzadeh. I have a PhD in cellular and molecular biology and I'm a bioinformatician. And here is Bioinformatics Center of Iran. Well, we have lots of videos coming on in our YouTube channel to tutor actually the programming for bioinformaticians. It starts from the elementary, from the beginning of the programming with R basics, with Python basics, and then we go further to teach you the analysis of the different sequencing methods, and we are going to get familiar with different types of data and also how to manage those data and how to work with them and how to analyze them. So um, I hope it will be helpful for you. First of all, you should have a Rstudio program installed in your computer. You know that R and Rstudio are freely available softwares that you can download and install in your computer. In this section, which is the first R basics, I'm going to talk about how we can read data into R, how we can assign variables, values actually to variables, what is data frame, and how we can access subsets of a data frame. For this, I'm going to show you how to manage your RStudio first of all, because whenever we start a new project, we may have a lot of scripts for just one project. So to handle these scripts, it's better to create a project at the first place that all the data, all the history of the file, all the history of codes and the results that you run are saved in that. And also all the R codes and scripts that you are written also are saved in there. So we want to do such a thing. Accordingly, I'm going to show you how to create a project and then how to create a script and then also run our codes. For this, we have to create a new project. I have a script opened in my RStudio, but I'm going to delete it because we don't need that right now. We are going to have a new project and then create a new script and then also continue on coding in R. So for this, I'm closing and not saving the script. From file, we can find the option of new project, and it asks if you want to save the current project or not. I said yes. So when you want to create a new project, it asks you what's the new directory you choose to save all the files of your R project. And then it asks you if it's a new project, if it's a R package or Shiny program or etc. And then it asks you for a directory. Please consider that your directory should be empty when you are putting it as a directory of saving. After that, setting all these things up, you can create your project, which I have already done this, and I don't press on create project, and I just show you that I have a directory, YouTube R basics code, in which all my files are going to be saved. So now we have a script. We should write down our codes and then perform them and also save them. For this, you have a few ways to create a new script. From file, new file, select R script, or from this option, you can also add a new R script. And I press it, it shows new file. So then you can press it and it comes with our script. Also, with Control Shift N, you can also create a new script. So this is a shorter way, right? So right now in here we can write anything we want. At the first place, what I love about scripting is commenting because you can put comments in the lines that you want to put the best things you have. And then you can call functions. In functions, I would call read.csv because I want to know how I want to read tabular data from a file. So the first option of read of that CSV function is file. File is equal to, so you have to put the exact directory that your file is in it. And my directory is actually data, not the code. So I'm putting the exact directory in here. Please keep in mind that the directory should be exactly the same. The file names should be exactly the same, that they are saved in your directory. And also all the files and all the codes are available on our GitHub page for this project. So I put the name, and don't forget about the extension of the file, .csv. Oops, there's a wrong. So I'm going to correct the name of the file. So that's okay. We could read the file. So we have pretty much real how much data in this tabular data, right? And there should be some way to manage it. So to do that, the other thing that I'm going to do is talking about how we should assign values to variables. So I'm going to talk about that because after that, we can manage our tabular data. Because guess what? We are going to assign our values to from tabular data to one variable. And then after that, whenever you want to call the tabular data, you can just use the variable name. So how we can do this? So I'm showing you right now assigning the values to the variables. And by the way, I since in these sections there are different parts and that I have put in between of two parts. I separate them with these lines that I love them really. They make our code really clean. So I put it like that, variables and value assignment. So for this, imagine you have a variable name called weight. And by the way, the sign for variable assignment is this sign. And then you can put any number for the weight. Imagine you are writing a script for several weights, for several people who you want to take their weights, and all the time you are working with one variable name, which several values are assigned into it, right? So this is the value of our variable, 55. And whenever I write weight and press Ctrl Enter from my keyboard, it shows me 55 because the latest value assigned to this variable is 55. And then I go to use some calculations on this variable. So whenever we use the variable name for any calculations, it will go with 55 because it's still the value that is assigned to this variable name. So for this, we can put, I want to calculate weight in pounds, so we should use it for 2.2 and weight. And control enter, and it is 121. So um, it used 55 as the value assigned to the variable, and the multiplication resulted in 121. And then also I want to say I want to change the value assigned to this variable. I want to change it to 57. It's different from the previous value. So from now on, the weight is not 55 anymore, it's 57. And the weight in kg is this, is now 57. So I want to do the same calculation as before, and for this, I don't want to just do the calculation. I want to do something more. So my variable name is overridden by another value, and the result of the calculation will be also different. Accordingly, I want to assign the result of calculation to convert the weight in kg to weight in lb into another variable name. So how can I do this? I would just define a new variable name called weight underline lb and do the calculation based on it. For this, I'm going to show you that weight underline lb is assigned by 2.2 multiplied by weight, which is on in kg. Oops. And control enter. So, what is weight underline lb right now? It is 125.4 because it's been changed and we assigned another value to our variable. So, based on this, if you have a script that you want to use a lot of values in for weight in kg and convert them to weight in lb, you don't have to do one by one. For each step, which in the future, in the near future actually, we're going to learn how to use for loops to do such a thing. You get one value every time, do the calculation, and have the output of weight underline lb. So it makes it faster. It's the magic of programming. Okay, and right now, I whenever I want to, I can change the value assigned to the variable. And also there's another way, an alternative way to print the value of a variable using parentheses, which I'm going to show you. Total weight is equal to weight kg, weight plus weight underline lb, and it assigns all the results to the total weight. So if we use the parentheses, we can assign this to a new variable called total weight, and finally it prints the value of the latest variable, which is called total weight. So this is why we use uh, parentheses for this. But however, uh, in case you want to have more exercises. You can do a lot of these calculations, and if you have any questions, please also ask your questions in the comments part. It can make a new discussion, so you can other people also can use the discussion for troubleshooting. Okay, and then so let's come back to our first code, read.csv. It's just reading the data. It's not assigned to anything. So I want to assign the value of this tabular data to a variable. And for this, I'm going to separate this part from the third part, which is assignment of the value of tabular data to a variable. I'm going to write it. Tabular value to a variable. And then data is assigned by read.csv, which is already shown. And I'm a lazy person, I use the suggestions. And also I'm a lazy person, and I copy and paste the file directory, which is for avoiding any mistakes in typing. And then, ta-da, you see that there is a variable in your R environment, and it says that there's 59 objects for 40 variables. Um, Objects are rows and variables are columns. We are going to discuss about it a bit more, but let's take a look at this. When you press on data, it views the data for you, and also it shows the code for you, view data. So whenever you also run the code view data, it also shows you. In the structure of a data frame, in the structure of a table, a tabular data. So it's great to have such a thing, but I want to have more. I want to see what are the first rows of data. I want to have a general look at the data. So I should use function called head for data. And it shows me like 5 or 6 rows of my data from all the columns. So it shows first rows, like first 6 rows from all 40 variables in my data frame. And after that, I also want to know, so I want to have some manipulations of on my data. I want to know what's the type of this data. Is this really data frame, or I mean, the system has recognized it as a data frame. So to test this, I use class. Class is a function which is used to recognize what's the type of your data. Class data. Class data. Okay. Yeah, it's a data frame. Great. So we have a data frame. But how many rows and how many columns do we have? Or how many objects and how many variables do we have? So to identify this, the other function that we can call is dim. So whenever you read a new file and assign it to a new variable, but you don't have any idea about how many rows and columns you have in this file, the function which helps you is dim. Dim is the short of dimension. Dim is the function that we call to know how many columns and how many rows we have in our data. Speaking of columns and rows, I'm going to show you something in the results of this code so that it makes it easier to for the rest of the section and also for the next sections because it's really important. So let me show you how dim works. dim data, control enter, 5940. Whenever you want to see how many dimensions you have in a data frame, the first number is the number of rows and the second number is the number of columns. And all the data in your rows are the data from, for example, the patients, or let's say the objects, let's say the people, or included animals in an experiment. And the second is the variables, or columns always have variables. So if I want to have a subset of my data, I use indexing. How it works indexing? So in this data frame, we don't have row names, and like in Excel sheets, what you have is the number of rows, 1, 2, until like 59. And then, so the number or the index of first cell for rows is 1, and also for columns is 1. We have column names, but for just right now, we are going to use the index of the column. So we know that we have a tabular data from 40 columns and 59 rows, and we want to index them. So it's easy for us. Index for first cell is first row and first column. So how to do indexing? For doing indexing, we use square brackets, and in the middle we have a comma, and the first number is the number of row. The second number is the number of column that we want to just take out the value and view for ourselves. For doing this, we should use the indexing. Accordingly, I'm going to show you how to print the first value in our data frame from row number 1 and column number 1. Data, square bracket, first value is the value of row and the second value is the value of column. I'm sorry, index of row and index of column. Okay, and then let's run another example. It's easy. The 30th row and the 20th column, the value is 16. Or 20th row for the 7th variable, and the value is 4. So using the index of columns and rows, we can print the values inside all of the cells based on the tabular data and based on the information that dim function showed to us. So dim function is a key function when you want to do subsetting or use indexing for print out the values, certain values in your data. But if you want to print various or multiple data from rows and multiple data from columns, we can use a function called C, which is the short for combine. Function combine combines the values you give and put them into one vector or into one list. For example, if you want to pick columns 10 and 20 from rows 1, 3, and 5, we can do such a thing. Data, square brackets, C to use multiple rows, and by the way, when we want to use C, indexing and subsetting also starts from the rows. So when we use rows number indexed 1, 3, and 5, for columns 10 and 20, for both columns, we get the data from the all the rows. So first rows and then columns. Also indexing works like this. So C135 and also C10 and 20. Okay, and control enter. This is the data, the result of subsetting our data for two columns and three rows. We really want to select, multiple data. Uh, Sometimes we use data from different columns, which are far away from each other. Sometimes we want to use contiguous rows or columns. For example, first 5 rows or first 10 columns or at columns from 3 to 7, etc. For this, we can use seek, but also we can use listing. For doing the listing, we have a really great and short way to have this. For it, I'm going to show you how to do the listing. If I want to print 1 to 5, I want I do such a thing. 1 to 5. This is the list. Control enter. Not the list, the data type list. It's just a list from 1 to 5. The continuous values or the 3 to 12. So this is how we can use contiguous data and how we can use this method to subset our data. So getting back into our data and subsetting using um, listing for like first 10 columns of values or first 4 rows of our values, how we can do this? We can do such a thing. I'm going to tell you such a really great point about programming in R. In programming in R, counting starts from 1 and all the numbers before and after the listing point are included in the list. So 1 to 4 means all 4 lines or are 4 rows from first to 10th column. 10 columns and 4 rows first of our data. So this is how we can do subsetting. Also another example can be from 5th rows to 10th row and from for first 10 columns, which I add one more one in the middle. Just don't put it in your coding since I have recorded the video before. This is a mistake. I didn't realize it. Okay, so all columns of a row, you put the number of row and you don't put anything for the columns. All the columns are printed for you. All the rows for the column also can be printed using putting nothing for rows and putting the number of columns we have. We can also combine the listing of the number of rows or columns and also printing all the number of columns or rows. For example, in here, I want to print from 16 column to 18 column of all rows, and it does it for me for all it. So as you can see, we can address all the columns and rows that we want to print or use their data or create or subsets using the listing and square brackets or using C function. Another way for addressing columns is by using their names. So the name of the column that I'm using here, one of them is x7.3. So for using this, I'm just copying this and using data square bracket, no row name or no row index, and also putting the name of the column inside the quotation. Also, I will put it in a quotation like this. So whenever you want to use the number of row or the number of column, you don't use quotation, but using the name of the column, use quotation. Also, if you use dollar sign, it's really great because it shows you already the name of the columns and you can select which column you want and it will print the value, all the values of all the rows. So please keep in mind that it prints the values of all rows and you can do subsetting using this. But if you want to use all data from one column, this is one of the greatest ways. So this is our first section. Thank you for watching us. Please introduce us to your friends and also please share your comments with us. Thank you very much. I hope we can see you very soon and subscribe our channel to see more videos related to programming for bioinformaticians. Thank you very much again. Bye.